mood, kaba. Dugumban. Mood.
Jaljilo ya.
Lemojila,
Jaljilo ya.
lemojila,
Jilo ratti robe ya.
lemojila,
Oya Tony gate ya.
lemojila,
Tony kormi gobe ya.
lemojila,
Kormi goben muda ya.
lemojila,
Gorom zandur dure ya.
lemojila.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello,
can you
good
hear me?
afternoon.
Thank you.
Afternoon.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and good evening.
Hi.
Welcome to the
Good
Africa One.
afternoon.
Can we unmute people, please? Okay, thank you. Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Africa One regional meeting. Welcome. We have a very lively and engaging sessions ahead of us. Stay with us. Thank you so much. Again, welcome. Karibu, bienvenue. So now, before we fully move into the different sessions, it's time for us to warm up, to do the first warming up exercise with introduction. We are going to use chat box for this. Throughout all the session, we use chat quite a lot for any comments and question you may have. So let's start with it now with the first warming up exercise. Let's get to know each other. So what we are going to do now is just introducing ourselves in the chat box. Who we are, where we're from. Please tell us your full name, and which institution you are from or country. So let's start now. Let's use 2 minutes for this and introduce ourselves. Use the chat box. Tell us who you are, where you from. Let's start. Thank you. I will start as an example with mine. Hi, Gasha from Ilri, Ethiopia. I can see. For those of you maybe just joining, we are doing the introduction exercise. Please introduce yourself in the chat box. Tell us where you are from. Let's get to know each other. See people are writing. For some of you maybe joining, please introduce yourself in the chat box. We are doing introduction exercise. Tell us who you are, where you're from, your full name, comma, your institution or country. We are left with 1 minute. Still, we are doing introduction exercise. Good, people are writing. ትንሽ ኦዲዮ ሪከርድ ችግር አለው እያለኝ ነው። ኦዲዮ Can you hear me now? Let's move to the next slide, Vincent, please. We are done with introduction exercise. Thank you. Now let me quickly give you some technological tips. Please do not use your built-in microphones. Sometimes it's an issue, conflict issue. So don't use, if you could, use your headset or USB microphones, please. For our, let me use group assignment and also to know who's speaking, please put your name and organizations in your Zoom. Your videos or you're speaking only, otherwise, so please put your microphone off when not speaking. If you can't see anything, if your Zoom is stuck, please close and reset. If you have all the other programs open, close those to have a full activity in the Zoom. So use the chat box where you have any comments, so you can use the chat box. If you have any question, also raise your hands, the organizers will get back to you. Video is optional. When you speak, you can turn it off on, when you're not speaking, you can turn it off. So that we are recording so audio and video and any chat, whether you're a private chat or public chat, that's also will be saved for the purpose. Can we move to the next slide, please? Next slide, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Can we move? Can you hear
Sahai,
me?
it's hard to hear
Yes?
you, Sahai. Maybe I'll just start to, I'll kind of continue on and then we'll see how your connection is.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Sahai. My name's Michael Victor. I'm working with ILRI as well. And just to continue on, the internet in Ethiopia is not so good. So just to keep things moving, we are going to be doing social reporting and tweeting live. So please use hashtags. Everybody who likes to tweet, please go ahead and tweet and use these hashtags. We have hashtag livestock dialogue, hashtag why livestock matter, hashtag GASL 2020, and hashtag Africa. So please go ahead and use those. Next slide, please. And just a reminder that we are recording this, both the audio and the video. All the chats that you put into the chat box will be saved. We'll use the main ones. We're not going to use people's own chats and everything, but we use this for collecting ideas and collecting reflections. So we'll use that. And discussions, photos, and other materials may be posted on social media sites. So just remember that anything that's here, it will be open access and accessible later on. Okay, the next slide, please. Okay, I'd like to hand it over to Dr. Saboni Moyo to introduce the session and get us going. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael, for this opportunity. I would like to welcome everyone again joining my colleagues on behalf of the organizers. We welcome you from across the world to the Global Agenda for Sustainable Livestock Multi-Stakeholder Partnership. This is the Africa One regional meeting. I'm privileged to be your moderator as we start today's meeting. My bandwidth is a bit low, so I might go off video. I don't know if you've seen that, but just to proceed without interruptions. Today is the beginning of Africa One regional meeting, which is for English-speaking countries. This will be held over the next 2 days, and it's held under the theme, lessons from COVID-19 for building back a better future through sustainable livestock. The goal of this year's meeting is to identify COVID-19's impacts and strategize stakeholder responses from across the world to build forward a more sustainable future by addressing challenges and opportunities in the livestock sector. Colleagues, friends, we are delighted to note that we have more than 215 people registered for this meeting. This really demonstrates a high interest, which is an indicator that the livestock sector has a lot to contribute to addressing the challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. We have in this meeting representatives from government, from research and academia, from the private sector, civil society, farmer organizations, multilateral and regional organizations, as well as investors. This diversity in the presence of expertise and organization represents here a wealth of knowledge and experience, which we all look forward to contributing and bringing together to enrich the discussions in these 2 days. Vincent, if you could go back to the previous slide, please. At this moment, I would like to present to you the objectives of this Regional Africa One meeting. We are here to, in these 2 days, to present regional impacts of COVID-19 around the 4 sustainability domains. These domains are food and nutrition security, livelihoods and economic growth, animal health and animal welfare, and climate and resource use. The second reason why we're coming together is to identify options in the short, medium, and long run on how the livestock sector could improve its response through a sustainable livestock approach with solutions from multi-stakeholder groups. So we're delighted that you were able to join us these 2 days. Next slide, please. Outputs from these regional discussions will feed into the global events. And so the chair will the chair of the global agenda will touch a bit more about some of these global events. So what we'll be deliberating on today and tomorrow, and these outputs, they will contribute to the global events of 2021, the GASL multi-stakeholder platform meeting, and the 2021 Food Systems Summit. So we'll hear a bit more about that later. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a full agenda ahead of us. Therefore, I will not take much more time from this rich agenda ahead. I would like at this moment to draw your attention to our next session, which is the welcome remarks. Next slide, please. In this session, we will have remarks from 4 speakers. We are grateful for their time and we look forward to their interventions. Before we start, I would also like to draw attention to everyone who will be contributing throughout this meeting that please stick to the time that has been allocated so that we can end and start our sessions on time. Thank you so much for your attention. At this time, I would like to warmly welcome the chair of the Global Agenda for Sustainable Livestock, GASL. This is Fritz Schneider. Over to you, Fritz.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. It's my great pleasure to open this session. It's the 2nd regional meeting we have. We had one in Oceania. And it's great that we have more or about the same number of registrations here as we had in the global meeting a year ago in Kansas. So it shows the enormous interest and makes us very proud and looking forward to this meeting. I'll give you a very short introduction This will not be long. The Global Agenda for Sustainable Livestock is a multi-stakeholder partnership and has been working since 2011 with the goal of promoting sustainable animal production around the world. The SDGs of the UN Agenda 2030, they are actually also posted behind me, built the reference frame for the Global Agenda. With its 115 institutional members belonging to all strata of society, the Global Agenda works towards more sustainability in the livestock sector by facilitating dialogue, assembling science-based evidence, and by advocating practice and policy change. You can find a poster on the Global Agenda with a bit more information in the shareware of this meeting. Usually, the Global Agenda has a multi-stakeholder partnership meeting once a year to bring together a wide diversity of livestock sector actors to address issues of sustainable development. Of course, this year's meeting, which was initially scheduled for June here in Switzerland, could not take place and has been postponed for 1 year. Instead, taking advantage of the virtual world we all live in at the moment, a series of regional meetings are being held in 8 regions, culminating in a global meeting under the theme Lessons from COVID-19 for Building Back a Better Future through Sustainable Livestock. Our regional meeting today and tomorrow is an important part of a longer-term process to promote and advocate for sustainable livestock. This meeting will feed into the global meeting in 2 weeks' time. Results and recommendations from this will inform the 2021 GASL meeting in Switzerland. And then these results will be to promote sustainable livestock within the World Food System Summit taking place in October 2021. I sincerely thank the organizing committee for your highly appreciated work and commitment. The organizers are from ILRI, Shirley Tariwali, Cynthia Mugo, Michael Victor. Then we have Bernard Kimoro, Ministry of Agriculture, Kenya, Martin Barassa from Vétérinaires Sans Frontières, Germany, Mohamed Abu Bakr, Federal Ministry of Agriculture, Nigeria, Robin Mbea, Ministry of Agriculture, Kenya, and Simplice Nwala, Fonku, Africa Union Commission. I now wish us all a very interesting and fruitful meeting, and I also look forward to seeing you all at our worldwide event from 14 to 18 September. Thank you again, and see you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fritz, for your opening remarks. At this moment, we'd like to warmly welcome Jimmy Smith, who is the Director General of the International Livestock Research Institute. Over to you, Jimmy.
Thank you, Bunny, and hello, colleagues from across the world. I'm pleased to be part of this virtual regional meeting on lessons from COVID-19 for building back a better future through sustainable livestock. ILRI is pleased to be joining forces with African Union Commission, DRE, the Ministry of Agriculture of Kenya, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture of Nigeria, and VSF Germany, and of course, the Global Agenda itself. We're pleased to be part of facilitating this meeting on the very important topic and to be able to bring together virtually over 200 individuals from over 31 countries across the world. We've had a great interest in this from Argentina to Zimbabwe. It is of real importance for us to understand the impacts of COVID-19 on the 4 sustainability domains of food and nutrition security, animal health and animal welfare, livelihoods and economic growth, and climate and natural resources, and to discern and pursue solutions that sustainable livestock systems can contribute in this context. Pre-COVID-19, the available evidence point to a large and rapidly growing demand for animal-sourced foods in Africa, with a projected increase of over 70% in just 2 decades, from 2010 to to 2030, due mostly to the continent's increasing population. In 2030, Africa's population is expected to consume 125% more beef, 60% more poultry, 46% more milk, and 77% more eggs than it did in 2010. The African market for animal source foods is estimated to reach $151 billion by 2050. Estimates indicate that under current conditions, a large share of this demand will be met through exports, costly in terms of the drain on the continent's foreign exchange, and indeed a missed opportunity for hundreds of millions of Africans who depend on livestock for their livelihoods. The creation of the African-wide free trade area offers an unprecedented opportunity to the livestock sector in Africa to reverse these trade flows by meeting internal demands and also for exports. With the right investments and policies, this can be done. COVID-19, a pandemic that has impacted every part of society, not least the livestock sector itself, threatens to disrupt economic and social life for the long term, if not managed well. So this virtual meeting and the global engagement later this month is both very timely and very relevant. Through this forum, we are providing an opportunity for everyone here to share their experiences and lessons in addressing the pandemic challenges through livestock. We are keen to see what innovations and lessons are being learned and how we can share these more widely. I'm therefore very pleased to welcome Minister of Livestock and Fisheries from the Republic of South Sudan, Honorable Oyoti Adego Neyek, the Permanent Secretary from the Ministry of Livestock of Kenya, Honorable Harry Kintai, and from Nigeria, Dr. Abdul Kader Musa. These three countries with significant livestock industries will make remarks, and I hope through their contributions and these contributions from this conference to these countries and others, we can make a significant impact on how the livestock sector is responding to COVID-19. I hope this would be beneficial for all, as it certainly would be for Hillary and for me personally. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jimmy, for the welcome remarks. To give us the opening remarks, I'm delighted at this moment to welcome the Principal Secretary to the State Department of Livestock, Minister of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives in Kenya, Mr. Harry Kimtai. Over to you, sir. Can I check if Mr. Kimtai is online? Maybe he's yet to connect. While we wait for him, I will move on at this moment and invite for opening remarks Dr. Abdul Kadir Mwauzi, the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development in Nigeria. My audio is letting me down.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you. Over to you.
Yeah, I am pleased to join this meeting and to give an opening remarks at the Global Agenda for Sustainable Livestock, Preparatory Meeting Africa 1, titled From Crisis to Actions, Lesson from COVID-19 for Building a Better Future Through Sustainable Livestock. Livestock plays a key role in the socio-economic well-being of Nigerians, aside from providing the much-needed animal protein in our diets. The COVID-19 pandemic, which was first reported in the country on the 27th of February, 2020, has had huge impacts on the livestock sector in our country. Businesses have been lost, several animals died of starvation, prices of animal feed ingredients skyrocketed beyond the reach of feed producers and livestock farmers. Breeding has almost become impossible through natural and artificial insemination due to the non-body conformity of animals as a result of hunger. To achieve some of the challenges faced by livestock farmers and solve them, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development carried out priority actions to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 pandemic in Nigeria. Specifically, the ministry facilitated access to livestock inputs, such as quality day-old chicks, point-of-lay pullets to replace some of the large numbers hurriedly and prematurely sold due to feed shortages, ruminant feeds, mineral salt licks, milking cans, milk cooling tanks, crop residues, crushing machines, forest choppers, pasture processing and transportation equipment were also provided to sustainably support the immediate and long-term needs of livestock farmers. In addition, the federal government, through the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, set up a committee to ensure free movement of livestock and livestock products, including ensuring that the abattoirs remain open for meat processing. Similarly, due to the escalating cost of animal feed, the President approved the release of 5,000 metric tons of maize for animal feed, particularly to support the poultry farmers. In Nigeria, the livestock sector shows almost the whole diversity of the sector worldwide, from extensive pastoral nomadic systems to peri-urban, small-scale, semi-intensive mixed crop livestock farms, to intensive large-scale systems, especially monogastric production units. The livestock sector, though growing at a slow pace in our country, has the potential to do better with increased funding, reskilling, and coordination. Despite this, the demand for livestock and livestock products continue to rise, especially milk and meat, thus making private investment in the livestock sector in our country very promising and potentially very profitable. The critical sustainability factor for livestock industry will require governments and other stakeholders across the continent to take necessary reforms that will address sustainable livestock enterprises across the value chains, create an enabling environment for a more animal-friendly livestock production, transformation, transportation, marketing, and consumption. Farmers must also work in a way that respects the animals, especially their rights, the environment, and the people. In conclusion, sustainable livestock production is anchored around maintaining good breed, health, and nutrition. Efforts should therefore be geared towards good nutrition with attendant positive impact on animal health. While appreciating the opportunity to join this meeting, I look forward to making new connections and hearing the feedback from across the continent. I wish the meeting fruitful deliberations and successful outcomes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdul Kadir Mwazi from Nigeria, for sharing with us the vast livestock resources that your country has, and also touching on some of the opportunities and maybe the challenges that need addressing. And we look forward to your engagement and continued sharing of Nigeria's experiences in how you're responding to some of the COVID-19 pandemic impacts. At this moment, I would like to welcome Mr. Harry Kimtai, the Principal Secretary, State Department of Livestock, Minister of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives from Kenya, over to make your opening remarks. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam. I want to take this opportunity to apologize. I think I was connected. I hope you are hearing me.
Yes, I can hear you well. We can also see you, sir. Welcome.
Great. Thank you. This technology sometimes can fail us, but we also thank this technology because it has enabled us to meet during these difficult times. Allow me to acknowledge the presence of Fritz Snyder, the Chair Global Agenda for Sustainable Livestock, Dr. Jim Smith, the Director General of International Livestock Research Institute, based here in Kenya, my colleague from Nigeria, Honorable Abdul Kadir Muasa, the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, distinguished workshop participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am pleased to join you this afternoon in these very important discussions on lessons learned from COVID-19 for building a better future through sustainable livestock. I want to say that indeed, the current situation that we are in is not something that was planned, but I think it happened and it's across the world. And therefore, it's important that we engage in this discussion in order to understand and learn lessons that we got from this current situation. And I want to say that here in Kenya, since the first COVID case in Kenya that was reported in March 2020, we have seen a lot of changes. We have seen a lot of our farmers going through a difficult time, especially on unplanned demands. And this is because we saw a reduced demand for livestock products due to closure of most of the restaurants and hotels. And this was as a result of the government action to contain COVID-19, where everything was closed. We've also seen a reduction in inputs that farm inputs that are supposed to be supplied to the farmers. There was also a challenge on cash flows. There was also restrictions on movement. As a result, goods were not moving freely, and this increased the cost of the inputs. In Kenya, we've noticed that we had also challenges of the animal health and extension services, because at one point we needed to understand the situation that we are in, and therefore we needed to come up with the protocols so that we can continue with a life. We also saw an increased loss for the hatcheries due to reduced demand for the day-old chicks, because most of the hatcheries closed to shop. We saw a low supply of agro inputs because of lack of trade between countries and where the supplies come from. The veterinary drugs and other inputs that are really needed in the livestock subsector could not be accessed by the farmers. The closure of international borders and national flights reduced losses of business for agro processors. This resulted into a disruption of flow of goods, as I've just mentioned earlier. And also our exports were actually stopped, so we could not export to our international markets. The Kenya government, through the State Department for Livestock, placed in place actions to mitigate the effects of this pandemic. This included the following. Number one, what we did as a government and the State Department for Livestock, together with the Ministry of Health, we developed the protocols and guidelines for uninterrupted services in the livestock-based food supply chains and handling of foods of animal origin. We reviewed sanitation protocols for slaughterhouses, butcheries, and other sales outlets to facilitate safety and to ensure that there is customer confidence. A post-COVID-19 recovery strategy was put in place that identifies the actions and programs for enhanced recovery and resilience of livestock-based food systems. The proposed programs in the strategy included input subsidies, credit support, development of livestock cold chain systems for SMEs. We developed contract farming targeting the imports of animal foodstuffs, development of livestock water and marketing infrastructure, livestock disease control systems, amongst others. We have recognized the importance of working with the multi-sector actors right across the sector to address these multiple challenges from the private and public sector that included both the large and small scale development partners. We also engaged other research institutions and academia to come up with other means or proposals that will be able to sustain our strategies. I want also to mention that out of this, we learned a lot of experiences. And what we did was we established what's called a multi-sector platform. This, we named it Food Security War Room. During this pandemic, that was the very important instrument in coordinating the stakeholders and addressing the emerging challenges promptly. This, as I said, helped us to come up with the protocols within the shortest time possible. This we also did by identifying the carriers that we need to track and ensure that all the stakeholders, including the government, the private sector, and the development partners, bring all their resources together so that we can surmount the challenges that were ahead of us. The staff from the State Department of Livestock have been engaged in the planning and preparations as committee members, and others were participating fully to ensure that there is free flow of food, both from the producers to the consumers. As a result, this enabled us to ensure that there was uninterrupted supply. And indeed, this really was a very great opportunity to connect in many ways and we developed new ways that we had not engaged previously with our stakeholders. As a result, there is now very close collaboration between the private sectors and the government in tackling this pandemic. I want to say that this experience really gave the government an opportunity also to come up with the new strategies that will be used in future where we face such kind of disasters. So indeed, it was a really great learning. This was a learning experience and we learned a lot. In conclusion, I want to thank the organizers of this event led by the Global Agenda for Sustainable Livestock for this wonderful event. And I think it is really good to share globally on each other's challenges and how we manage to surmount these challenges. I wish to say that let's continue contributing to ensure that we have sustainable solutions and share knowledge on issues of livestock production and especially on our livestock systems, knowing that at times there could be some interruptions. More so in Africa, where most of our systems are not yet really fully developed. I therefore want to thank all of you and wish you good deliberations, and let's come up with the solutions that will help the livestock subsector to continue contributing in its sustainable development. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Principal Secretary, for sharing on Kenya's experiences and really touching on some of the concrete activities that the sector is taking. The notes from the presenters will all be shared through the website and the other materials. So please take note and you can follow up to view or read some of the details that the PS had. Thank you, sir. I hope you'll be able to join us through the other sessions. We look forward to learn more from what is going on in Kenya. I would like at this moment to thank all the presenters in this session, and thank you for sharing and also reminding us that what we are deliberating on today and tomorrow will contribute to the global multi-stakeholder partnership meeting from 14 to 18 September. So thank you very much. Please join me in thanking them in your own space or online where you are. Thank you very much. At this moment, we would like to move on, and the next session is by my colleague, Cynthia Mugo, who is the Policy and Stakeholder Engagement Advisor at ILRI. She will take us through the overview of this meeting. Thank you, Cynthia, over to you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Hello, everyone. It's really good to be here. We have organized for you an agenda that is interactive, engaging, and that will ensure that we dialogue and we get to solutions. So we've started session 1, as you've seen, that started with opening remarks from our esteemed guest speakers. We'll also get to listen to 4 framing presentations of the impact of COVID-19 around 4 domain areas. Thereafter, we get to the exciting part of today's session, where we will continue the discussions that have been started through the framing presentations in groups. At the end of session 1, after we have our reflection and wrap up, we will open the share fair, where we will interact and exchange ideas on the work we are all doing related to COVID-19. At this point, we hope to take a very short break. We return to session 2, where in addition to participating more in the share fair, we will have an engaging conversation to be set off by an exciting group of panelists. Session 3, day 2, is all about finding solutions and co-creating actions on how the livestock sector can contribute to building back better. I hope you're all ready for 3 very engaging sessions that will generate a lot of information. Next slide, please. So Bonnie earlier mentioned that we got a lot of interest. We got around 215 participants who registered. They were from 32 countries, 16 in Africa, Anglophone Africa. And also to note that it's truly a multi-stakeholder meeting. We have representations from private sector, public sector, academia, civil society, development partners. So we are expecting a very, very rich conversation. So to get right into session 1, we have already kicked off, which is the next slide, please. We've kicked it off with our welcoming, our objectives, and our presentations from the speakers. So we are getting right into the framing presentations next. Then we'll do some group discussion, reflection, and we take a break as we view the share fair posters. So the framing presentation, which is coming next, will be moderated by Dr. Simplice Nwala, who is the head of agriculture and food security at the African Union Commission. Dr. Nwala oversees the implementation of AU decisions on agricultural growth and transformation. Simplice, over to you, please. Thank you, everyone, and welcome.
Thank you, Cynthia. I'm trying to switch on my video. Thank you very much, Cynthia, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this second part of the first session of our virtual meeting. This second part of our sessions will basically deal with the lessons that we have learned from the COVID-19 pandemic. And this will be done around the 4 sustainable livestock sector domains. Just to recall these domains, we have food security, livelihood and economic growth, animal health and welfare, and finally climate and natural resource use. Our first speaker is Dr. David Harvey. David is the program manager, director for Land O'Lakes Venture 37, providing management and technical oversight to several projects in Africa and the Caucasus. They've joined V37 in November 24, and he has over 25 years experience of livelihood development across the rural value chain in Africa. Dave is still actively involved in his farm in northern Zambia, where he helps Jesses to supply the district town. So Jess, you are welcome for sharing with us the impact of COVID-19 on food security. Dave, over to you.
Good afternoon, good morning, everybody. This is Di Harvey, and Moiseni Bonse to my Zambian colleagues that I hear and can see on the screen, and are talking to us. Could you go to the next slide, please? COVID-19 continues to disrupt many countries around the world, and the food security and livelihoods of many people are at risk. Prior to COVID-19, approximately a third of the world's population were not getting the correct balance of nutrition. And because of the pandemic, the UN reports that an additional 130 million people will fall into the status of food insecurity due to the pandemic. This is truly a very worrying situation. Access to sustainably produced, affordable, safe and nutritious sourced foods, meat, dairy and eggs is critical to reducing stunting and adequately feeding rural and urban communities and maintaining economic and environmental stability. However, based on a pulse survey that was conducted by Venture 37 in Rwanda, Mozambique, Georgia and Bangladesh, a cross-section across parts of the world, of less developed parts of the world during July of 2020, we found that due to the pandemic, consumption in animal source foods had approximately fallen by 37%. Development organizations, agribusiness, private sector partners must adapt to COVID-19's disruption by building back a more resilient and inclusive livestock food system to cost effectively supply these nutrient-dense foods to the poorer communities. As communities recover, we need to work out the best way and the most leveraged way to develop and support these markets that have been disrupted, to ensure that nutriently dense food is more accessible for marginalized food compared to where it was before the COVID situation. As global leaders in sustainable livestock production and animal sourced food programming, Land O'Lakes Venture 37 and our partners, including ILRI, look across market systems to try to find solution. Part of my presentation will be to show some of those possible solutions and some of the ways that there are opportunities going forward, by no means saying that these are the only solutions, but giving some examples of that. Land O'Lakes, as you know, Land O'Lakes Inc., our major collaborator, is a $15 billion agribusiness with diverse agro businesses, technologies and insights in animal nutrition, crop inputs, dairy, data analytics and sustainability. Paired this with nearly 40 years of agricultural development in Land O'Lakes Venture 37, we have a powerful toolkit for creating customized solutions for livestock food systems across the world. I'm going to give you a few examples, which I hope we'll be able to dig into a little later on, and I'm very happy to respond to them. In Rwanda, we've had a good example where poultry production, there's been major pressure on the poultry production and the egg, particularly around egg production. With this, there was a response by USAID in the Feed the Future Ruhazi program and activity, Ministry of Agriculture through the government of Rwanda, and supported by Rwanda's National Early Childhood Development Program, who targeted children across the country to ensure that they had access to eggs. Numerous children and households received 21 egg producers benefiting from this activity, ensuring that eggs were available to people on the ground and to poor households on the ground. Similarly, other efforts with Venture 37 working alongside ILRI and the area of Africa Dairy Genetic Gains, ensuring that the genetic makeup of dairy animals in Tanzania and Ethiopia, with over 200,000 farmers being touched in all of those areas, to ensure that there is adequate milk being produced in Tanzania and Ethiopia, and allowing farmers better access to milk and dairy products. In addition, we understand that different agricultural value chains are not siloed, and we believe that it's very important that there is an integration between crops and livestock and the market systems in order to build true resiliency and mitigate against the devastating effects of climate change and protect animal source foods. In such instances, it's very important to involve and engage private sector, and this is to allow for sustainability and also to take the burden off host country governments that have many other aspects. Such a partnership is another simple partnership that is currently underway in Kenya, which is covering and focusing on crop production. Next slide, please. Hello? Next slide, please. The existing structures and challenges are being exacerbated by COVID-19, making food security an immediate concern, and impacts are being felt through the food system along the value chain from producers to intermediaries and to consumers. The necessary global response to the pandemic has led to severe disruptions in availability of inputs and extension support, fractured input and output supply chains, closed marketplaces, and reduced incomes. As a result, the WFP estimates that the number of people who will be actually hungry, mostly in Africa, will double this year, and the World Bank forecasts agricultural production in sub-Saharan Africa will fall by 3 to 7%. In this graphic, you will see illustrated the dairy value chain in East Africa. We know that the dairy industry has an important role to play in feeding Africa's growing population, reducing chronic malnutrition and the effects of that affects the continent. However, COVID-19 has a number of negative impacts on African dairy sector, including lack of movement of people and goods within and across borders. The dairy processors in particular can provide a strategic resource to allow smallholders to connect to markets and allow them to improve their livelihoods and also improve access to animal source foods. There's also been a significant loss in purchasing power due to lack of jobs. We've already heard from the PSs in both countries about the challenges around the closing of hospitality industries, and that has also has reduced livelihoods. Though these challenges exist, dairy in particular is an attractive and impactful investment for COVID-19 response and recovery, helping the region to build back better for a more sustainable and nutritious food system. Dairy products are not only often the sole source of specific micro and macronutrients, building back immune systems such as B12, vitamin A, calcium, etc., but dairy production also contributes to a more reliable source of year-round income compared to high-risk rain-fed agriculture. As dairy is local, it is both good for the consumer and the producer. Farmers are able to get their milk to market, and the consumers have access to affordable dairy products. This creates an opportunity for near-term, continuous, nutrient-frequent response to the pandemic. What's more, there is a significant private sector interest in investment and engagement, particularly in support of a sustainable dairy value chain. What is our response to this? And what do we suggest is our response? Farmers, if possible, need to invest now to continue to increase production for the future, realizing and knowing that cows have are biological and have 9 months to produce a calf. So it is very important to keep the farmers moving ahead and being able to have access to ensure that their cows are bred. It's important also to ensure the continued operation of markets, both formal markets and the informal, that are able to access poorer households. It's also important to ensure that the affordable products getting to consumers, that they are safe and nutritious. While most of the consumption of dairy products across the region is through informal markets, there is a significant opportunity of farmer-allied intermediaries in supporting commercially orientated farmers in production of their livelihoods. It's also important to ensure that many of the poorer consumers that we know are visiting markets on a daily basis continue to have safe access to these products. Next slide, please. Next, okay, thank you. So the Dairy Nourishes Africa initiative is a unique long-term public-private partnership which seeks a holistic transformation of the dairy industry throughout East Africa. However, Dairy Nutrition Nourishes Africa is more than a singular private sector engagement. It is a movement that will crowd in a broad-based support for sectorial transformation. Dairy Nourishes Africa provides sustainable front and center, advancing climate-smart farm management and increasing enterprise efficiency using environmentally friendly solutions to reach out to consumers and effectively reducing dairy's footprint while simultaneously building a more resilient food system. Throughout a holistic effort to foster and support activities through the dairy ecosystem. Dairy Nourishes Africa takes an enterprise-centric and government-aligned approach to growing consumer demand, driving dairy enterprises to their full potential while increasing farm production and also creating a supportive and interconnected operating environment in which dairy industry can survive. The dairy...
Finish up.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So 21% of sub-Saharan Africa population is undernourished, but the provision of animal source foods are an important intervention and ensure the growth and development of both young children physically and cognitively. COVID-19 will exacerbate these challenges, and the private and public sector must work together to find new solutions and sustainable ways to reach children and ensure that they're receiving nutrition-rich animal source foods, especially during these challenging times. Milk is one of these ways. We look forward to discussing more about this in our sessions below, but we feel that school milk feeding programs are one of the solutions to this and a way of ensuring that young children have access to nutriently dense products. Next slide, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dave, for this excellent presentation on the impact of COVID-19 on the food security. What we can take as a message here is that it's worrying to learn that an additional 130 million people will fall into food insecurity. And more worrying is the fall of 37% in the consumption of animal source food. But the good news is that there are solutions. And the way forward, as you have mentioned, is to work towards building a more resilient food system that will entail working on integration of value chains, looking at crop livestock integration, support availability to food, of quality food and quality input. And this is agro-processing that will mean value addition, food safety issues, and more importantly, strengthened the partnership, the public-private partnership. Thank you very much, Dave. The second speaker, who will deal with the impact of COVID-19 on livestock and livelihood, is Mrs. Elizabeth Choi. Mrs. Elizabeth is the founder of the AQM Greater Company Limited, dealing with integrated poultry business, managing 3 breeders' farm, a hatchery, and a feed mill. She's the member of the African Agribusiness Academy, African Women in Agribusiness, and a member of the Professional Poultry Association, feed mill, etc. in Tanzania. Elizabeth, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I will quickly go through my presentation, but prior to that, I would like to thank you, the organizing committee of this important meeting. So straight away, I would like to go to my presentation. I think in Tanzania, the case is a bit different, even though the fear was there. The effect of that fear was on everybody. So even though the government did not fully lock down, but the population locked themselves down. And that was a fear that I'm going to share with you the impact of that fear, but as well as the indirect challenges that were caused by a lot of challenges, especially on our poultry sector and livestock sector. One of the big challenge that I'm looking at is the disruption of our food systems. And as you all know that the food systems are being contributed by small and medium sized company who are also working with the smallholder farmers to at least allow that those systems to function. Due to COVID-19, even the farmers, the smallholder farmers were afraid. For the case of Tanzania, the COVID-19 hit the major cities like Dar es Salaam, and there was a concern from the farmers that the people from Dar es Salaam should not be allowed to travel to the rural areas. My company works with rural farmers. We are working with more than 616 smallholder farmers and 420 franchises. And this was a challenge because everything that we are producing from the day-old chicks, from the feeds, from the extension services we had invested for the past many years came to a halt. Now, due to that fear, as you know, poultry is one of the products from poultry are the major products that are used for nutrition and for even normal, good protein that is recommended health-wise. Now, that was purely disrupted, but also the grains from the smallholder farmers. And with the policy that was going on in Tanzania with the export of grains, also affected the production of chicks, and also the rearing feeding of the poultry and other livestock. Now, when you're looking at the financial financial impacts, most of the banks were afraid, and they were not able to give their decisions whether or not they should continue with investments, and also issuing loans. And because of the uncertainty of whether the companies will be able to repay the loans. That was another challenge. Now, looking at the solutions for this, as a company, we immediately thought that digital agriculture should be the only way to communicate with the farmers, and also to look at issues of financial support to the smallholder farmers. And also we introduced something we call mobile extension services, information sharing through social media, and of course training and database development, and also related programs like production programs. We started as a company to invest on digital agriculture. At the moment, we have already invested on call center and of course mobile services and the use of 100% of social media. The other issue that we've been engaged with the government seriously in is the issue of policy reviews and budgetary concerns. We've suggested to government a number of innovations and good practices and policy, because we feel like the business environment, even with COVID, was not so supportive to companies. Now, it was crucial that a business environment should be looked at, especially on taxes, on financial loans, credit facilities, farmer finances, and all those. So those were the major challenges. They still are a challenge. So let's go to the second slide, please. I tried to give some statistics from my company, just for others to learn exactly what we went through COVID-19. Sales dropped. We were selling at least USD $160,000 a month, and for the first month of COVID, the sales dropped to $25,000 a month. We tried to go to a bank, and we accessed about $100,000 at 24% interest, and that was the high interest during COVID. So that left the company with a very big burden. Employment, we had 120 staff. Out of 120 staff, we had about 46 veterinary doctors who were working with smallholder farmers. We had to drop that number to 64 and invested in digital communication and mobile veterinary service. That was another way of mitigating the drop of extension services to reach out to the rural farmers. We had 420 franchises. The franchises dropped up to 188. So we had to invest in reviving the rural-based franchises. These franchises are the franchises that kept the chickens for 4 weeks. The chicks were vaccinated. They received all the first treatment before they reached to other smallholder farmers, and each franchise was supposed to reach at least 500 households. So once the franchises were affected, that means the smallholder farmers were affected too. So we had about 614,000. We ended up with 5,000 smallholder farmers. Now we are working on reviving customer base. And the price for one chick, during January and February, we tried to lower the price, and we could not sell at all. So we had to give away all the production of chicks. And the chicks that we were giving away a month was about 256,000 chicks. But we did not even know how we could monitor at smallholder farmers. That to date, we don't have the data for mortalities, and we don't have the data for vaccination programs, whether the farmers were able to vaccinate. And in February, we decided to not hatch the chicks. we decided, because our parent stock farms, they were new parent stock farms with almost 30,000 parents. So in February, we had to give away eggs, which are very expensive. We had to feed the parent stocks. We had to give away eggs to the COVID centers in Tanzania. So as you can see, we went into complete loss. At the same time, we were having a burden on feeding the parent stock, at least to revive those parent stock. But even though we lost a good amount of parent stock in one of our farms. So we had a new investment that was going on. It was a new animal feed mill construction. So the expatriates from China were locked down in China. So to date, this project was supposed to be done in 4 months, but this project took a year before we finalized the construction. But to date, the plant has not been commissioned to us. And we had a foreign expert who was on training on nutrition, poultry nutrition in Nairobi. And he had to fly back to Cameroon for leave. And he was held in Cameroon for more than 4 months. That means all the salaries and all the costs of his employment was on AK Glitters. At the end of March or mid-March, he decided to resign just because he did not want to put the company into more losses. Second slide, please.
Finish up.
Can we go to another slide? Yeah, okay. We also are facing to date, we have paid for new parent stock from India, but to date, we've not been able to bring in parent stock because of lockdowns and flights cancellations, even after the opening of the lockdowns. So as you can see, other poultry companies in Tanzania, they did not even have parent stock. So chicks scarcity was a problem. During COVID, it was almost 40%. And importation of parent stock to date, I have paid about $91,000 to import parent stocks. But to date, I'm told the plane has been delayed for 14 hours. As I'm speaking, I'm in fear that probably the parent stock will not be able to come to Tanzania. When you're looking at policy issues, AKM Glitters has been requested by the government to invest on grandparent stock, and which we don't know how to do this because why they suggested that we should at least invest on grandparent stock. It's because during COVID, or whether COVID will come again or in the future, we should not be facing the challenges we are facing now. But as you can see, having grandparents investment on grandparents it's a lot of investment. It needs research. It needs a lot of research and product development. It needs partners into this, and that is a challenge for the growing company. When you're talking about financial,
sorry, we need to finish up.
Yeah, like as you can see, there's a lot of challenges. Now, these two templates, of course, covers everything that comes in other other challenges, because all of them are summed up in this whatever. So taxes are still the same, salaries are still the same cost, nothing, donor funds were delayed. Can we go to another template, please? What was in those templates? Controlled, everything that you see is in the summing up of the second and first. Yeah, let's go another slide. Yeah, so when you are talking about salaries, salary cost remains the same. So AKM Glitters came up with contingency plan. We had to invest on call center, which is working very well with us. We are communicating with farmers, we are training the farmers, and we are also using social media to train the farmers to communicate with the farmers. And we are trying now to revive the rural-based customers. And also we have invested in a mobile vehicle, with a few staff controlled ones with all gadgets to reach the farmers, so that the farmers are protected and our staff are protected. And we are now establishing an IT for platform. I think it will start to work in October. This will allow us to train the farmers through the platform, and the farmers will be receiving the trainings, materials through their phones. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes.
Please finish up, Elizabeth. Will we please finish it up? Sorry.
Yeah. So as you can see, everything that I've been talking about on our last slide as solutions, I've already spoken about those. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for this presentation. I think as a takeaway message, we can note that the COVID-19 has impacted on the productive capacity of the farmers and the business people in livestock. This has impacted also on their income. It has impacted on the job. We have lost a lot of jobs due to this. And as a solution, you are proposing more investment in digital agriculture. You are proposing the financial stimulus packages as well as policy review in order to strengthen the resilience or the livelihood of livestock keepers or the livestock business people. Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. For the presentation on the impact of COVID-19 on animal health and welfare, we will have two speakers. The first speaker is Dr. Jean-Philippe Dopp, who is the Deputy Director General at the World Organization for Animal Health, commonly known as OIE. He is in charge of international or institutional affairs and regional activities. Before joining the OIE, he worked with the French Ministry of Agriculture, Agri-Food and Forestry. After his presentation, we will have a short input that will give an African perspective, and this will be done by Dr. Samuel Wakusama, who is the regional representative of OIE for Eastern and the Horn of Africa. So, Dr. Dobb, you have the floor, and Samuel will immediately take after you. Over you.
Thank you, Mr. Nuala. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to provide inputs. I will try by reminding what are zoonotic threats and emerging diseases. In fact, we already knew before COVID-19 that 75% of emerging infectious diseases of humans are zoonotic. So this is not an exception. This virus is a zoonotic virus. And we know that these zoonotic threats are facilitated by globalization, movements of goods and people, permanent changes regarding climate, human behavior, deforestation, urbanization. So there are many opportunities for pathogens to colonize new territories, and a huge interdependence of countries for their own protection. And is the reason why we like at the OIE, but also with our colleagues of WHO or FAO, we like to speak of one world and one health, because all is related, all is connected between animal health, human health, and environment health. Next slide, please. So this slide illustrates the zoonotic origin of coronaviruses. COVID-19 is not the first one. We already knew SARS, coronavirus, Middle East respiratory syndrome, coronavirus. And we know that these viruses circulate in animals, most of the time in bats, but could be also in camels. In this particular case of COVID-19, there is an hypothesis of spillover between different species, which has to be still investigated, and some expert missions are going on, in particular in China, to have a better knowledge of that. Next slide, please. So we had a great demonstration with the last speakers of the huge impact of this pandemic. Here you have some figures of the last events. For sure, Ebola was already concerned. Africa was already concerned by Ebola. There is an estimation here that the impact could be more than $10 billion. But when it comes to COVID-19, we reach figures that we never knew before. Elizabeth Christopher, I think, described very well, as well as David Harvey, the huge impact it has on the activity, on the food chain, on private companies, the need to all reorganize. And according to calculations by UN and others, we estimate that the COVID-19 pandemic could cost more than $15 trillion. This is tremendous, and we have to invest in order to avoid so huge impact. We have to invest in predicting this phenomenon, invest in prevention, and invest in controlling these events. Next slide, please. So these are some examples of the work we developed at the OIE. We had already a wildlife working group. We issued some statement to remind the importance of regulation of wildlife trade. We set up some ad hoc groups which issued some guidance for veterinary laboratory to support human health testing. And I know that, for example, the PanVac laboratory in Ethiopia used this guidance and provided some important support to test COVID-19. And also in many other countries, we also issued considerations for sampling animals, and I will show you some results of these samples. And we try to explain how to manage COVID-19 risk assessment, and in order to avoid international trade disruption. And we issued an important paper regarding that. Next slide. So here is the example of the statement that our working group issued for wildlife. Many considerations are still to be considered. We will work on a guidance document to see how to better regulate this trade, in particular the trade of live animals within wet markets. So we are not against this trade, which is very important for many communities in Africa, but we know that it has to be better regulated. Risk have to be better assessed. Hygiene, inspection have to be improved, and we will continue to work on that. Next slide, please. So, yes, we know that these emerging diseases from animal sources can have severe economic and health impacts. We can go fast on this disease. Disease spread between wildlife, livestock, and humans occur through complex transmission. We call this the spillover, and we have still to investigate on it. Next. The risk of disease emergence has increased as a result of opportunities, globalization, deforestation, and so on. Next. And this is exacerbated by human activities. So livestock production, intensified livestock production could be challenged, but in that case, we know that the issue is more wildlife regulation than livestock regulation. Next slide, please. We also learned from some African projects, in particular from the Ebo sur Sea project we have in Central Africa. It is a project funded by European Union and which had good results in terms of surveillance of Ebola viruses, hemorrhagic fevers, in terms of collaboration between human health and animal health. And with improving the capacity of the laboratories of the region to detect Ebola, we also improved their capacity to detect COVID-19. And it was really nice to see how these labs, which benefited from the Ebo sur Sea project, are today able to test COVID-19. Next slide, please. So here are some results of the testing campaigns of the country of our members regarding animals. We could fear that the virus could disseminate in many animals and not only wildlife but also breeding animals. And you see that in fact we had no extension of this diffusion. We had some cases in cats, in dogs, in tiger, in lion, more felines. The puma was recently identified in South Africa. And the only, let's say, breeding animals which were identified in farms were minks in the Netherlands. And this event is still under investigation to know if we face a human to minks contamination, or on the other sense, it could be possible for minks to contaminate humans, but we have still to assess the risk. Next slide. Here is an important communication from UC Davis University, showing that the level of susceptibility could be different in different species. But according to the presence of some receptors, which are able to receive the virus, researchers determine the level of risk of susceptibility. And you see finally that breeding animals and livestock are not the first concern, but we could face some concern for non-human mammals. Next slide, please.
Jean-Philippe, please to finish up as well, so to wrap it up.
So this leads to a principle of action. We must control zoonotic pathogens at the animal source, and we must embrace the One Health approach, onboarding all together human health and animal health and environment health. Next. Next, please. So these are crucial cornerstones. Our objective within OIE is to develop standards to improve the capacity of countries to deliver capacity of surveillance, control, and prevention. We have also at WHO the importance of the international health regulation. And together we try to develop the national capacities for early detection and rapid response. Investing in our animal health and human health sectors is really an important cornerstone. Next slide. So which lessons for the future? There is a need for strengthening the One Health approach because the health of animals, humans, and environment are inextricably linked. We show that disease spillovers events can have huge consequences, and this risk is increasing and cannot be ignored. There is a need for collective action and international cooperation because disease knows no borders, so cooperation doesn't need to face borders, and the drivers of disease emergence are broad, and no one organization, no the OIE alone, no WHO alone, no FAO alone, no UNEP alone can have an impact across all of them. And there is a need of strong political awareness and commitment. And I was very happy to see ministers today, ministers from Kenya, Nigeria, to be there to sustain investments and capacity buildings of national and regional health systems, to sustain research and scientific knowledge, and to support multilateral dialogue and engagement in global and regional organizations. And thank you to GASL and ILRI to promote that. And perhaps now a few words from my colleague based in Nairobi to give you how we deal with that in the African context. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, participants. John Dope has said most of the things, but at least from the African perspective, it's very important to invest in capacity building, especially for the One Health approach. Some of the labs, like the one he mentioned in Ethiopia, the National Animal Health Diagnostic Center, has been able to actually achieve this through the twinning program that we have had with the OIE with them. And it will be nice for the most of the African institutions to actually participate in such programs to be able to provide the capacities, both human capacities and physical capacity. With regard to collective and international cooperation, I'm glad to see the African Union and the Africa CDC actually conducting sessions to actually create awareness. And I think they are playing a very major leading role to connect the political, to mobilize and mobilize resources and the political will for technical support funding for the member countries. It is important that the political will is there for the long-standing and sustainable One Health collaboration into the government structure, because most of the time, this One Health approach is not really very well anchored in the ministries. But from the African perspective, it will be very good if we had a very well sustained structure and long-standing, such that the countries, such that such events, when they come up, it's easier to approach and tackle it from one angle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sama. Thank you very much, Jean-Philippe, for your presentation that have refreshed our mind on the origin of the virus and the level of its susceptibility and the risk. Thank you for the information on the global loss that the COVID-19 could lead to. That is about over 15 trillion US dollars. And for the solution that you are proposing and about monitoring, surveillance, and control, this needs to be strengthened, and this needs to be done around the One Health approach. And for this to happen, we need political will, so we need to create more political awareness and get commitment from our policymakers. And more importantly, and again, this has been said by previous speakers, we need to strengthen collaboration, partnership, and international cooperation. Our last speaker will share with us the impact of the pandemic on climate change and natural resource use. The speaker is Sonja Leitner. She's a soil science ecologist and biologist working with ILRI, the International Livestock Research Institute. Sonja, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Simplis. Can you please confirm if you can hear me well?
I can hear you very well. I hope others are doing the same.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. I will give the last framing presentation for today, and I will speak about the impact of the livestock sector, the pandemic, on climate change and natural resource use in sub-Saharan Africa. So we have just heard a little bit about animal health, and you all know that livestock is also playing a role in disease transmission. So there's also a lot of focus now during this COVID-19 pandemic on livestock. And we also know that there is a lot of interaction between livestock and wildlife, but there are a lot of other adverse effects of livestock on the environment, and they can have secondary effects on disease development and spreading. So I would like to talk about them a little bit now. So of course, probably one of the biggest ones that we have to address here is the impact of livestock to climate change. We all know that livestock is an emitter of greenhouse gas emissions. Approximately 15% of global greenhouse gases originate from livestock if you follow life cycle assessment approaches. And the main sources of these greenhouse gas emissions are enteric fermentation, that is the ruminant digestion that produces methane, animal manure, and deforestation and land degradation. And then there's also a little bit of transport and processing, but this usually doesn't have a big contribution in sub-Saharan Africa. We do, however, note that livestock greenhouse gas emissions can dominate national greenhouse gas budgets in many sub-Saharan African countries. Of course, there's also an effect of climate change on livestock. And this figure shows all the different effects that climate change via increase of temperature and precipitation variation, for example, can have on livestock. And to pick out just a few, we have heat, droughts, floods that can occur more frequently and become more severe, change in vegetation, which can affect the nutritional quality of the vegetation for the livestock, and also higher disease pressure, because we know that certain vectors can invade new territories and new diseases can start spreading. And of course, there are also a lot of feedback loops between all these points. For example, weak animals that are already stressed by heat and drought or lack of fodder can become more susceptible to diseases. And we also know that animal disease can suppress productivity. And then more animals are required, which produce more greenhouse gas emissions, which can accelerate climate change. So climate change, livestock, and disease is inextricably linked. Then, of course, there is another topic, which is land degradation. Causes for land degradation are, among others, deforestation and land conversion, some of which happens to produce new pastures for livestock, crop farming and extractable agriculture, and livestock grazing, especially in combination with high animal numbers. And this is from a study that we're currently conducting in Western Kenya. This map shows the areas of Kenya that are under hazard for land degradation, and everything that's red is under severe or very severe hazard. So you can see that this is really a big topic in Kenya, and it's also a topic in many other East African countries. And if you look at the picture on the bottom right, this is a photo taken from Western Kenya, and it shows how a degraded land cannot function properly anymore because you have loss of vegetation cover. So of course this land cannot provide feed, food, and fiber anymore, but it also loses its regulation capacity. Capacity to regulate pests and control diseases, or to stabilize soil and control erosion, and capacity for water filtration and nutrient cycling. And we've just heard in the previous presentation that we really need a One Health approach here that takes into account human health, animal health, and environmental health. Or if I talk to my students, I like to put this in simpler words, which is healthy soils are required to grow healthy plants, which can lead to healthy animals and in the end, healthy humans. Finally, there's livestock and nutrient cycling. And I would like to give you one example from Kenya that we're working on here. Many of you might know this picture. These are some photos of animal enclosures. In Kenya, we call them bomas. They're also referred to as kraals or corrals, and they're very common in pastoral systems to guard the animals overnight, to protect them from predators and from thieves. But this has consequences for nutrient cycling, meaning that it can lead to a nutrient redistribution across the landscape. Inside the bomas, there is a high concentration of nutrients, such as nitrogen, due to manure accumulation, which can lead to a lot of adverse environmental consequences. For example, 10% of nitrous oxide emissions in Africa originate from bomas. And bomas are also sources for pollutants that can have adverse health effects, such as air and groundwater pollutants. On the other hand, this nitrogen that is concentrated in the bomas is then lacking somewhere else. It can lead to low forage quality if the pasture soils are depleted in nitrogen. And over the long term, this soil nutrient mining can lead to loss of soil organic matter, resulting in additional greenhouse gas emissions and soil erosion. And this is an example for a grassland, but you can have a similar situation in mixed crop livestock systems as well, especially if farmers do not use enough fertilizer or do not recycle manure. Then you have continuous nutrient mining from the crop fields, which can lead to soil degradation. And in the long term, this becomes unsustainable, especially with increasing animal numbers and limited land availability due to land fragmentation. This means that agroecosystems become destabilized in the long run, and they're more susceptible to disturbance, for example, pandemics, but also locust outbreak, as we have just witnessed, or extreme climatic events. And therefore, we really need a circular economy and a holistic approach, because the better the systems work and the more we can avoid leakages, the more efficient these systems will run, which also means that there's less land required and thus a lower probability of pandemics when livestock don't come in touch with wildlife. And there are many few extra data for Africa, especially regarding environmental pollution. And now I would like to give you some examples on what we do looking at the environmental effects of COVID-19. One study that we're currently conducting is looking at the impact of the lockdown on livestock greenhouse gas emissions from pastoralist systems in Samburu, northern Kenya. We know that the lockdown has reduced the movement of herders with their animals, and we're now looking whether it also has an effect on herd size, animal numbers, and feed availability. And we have developed different scenario combinations and are working with survey data of key stakeholders to look at the impact of this lockdown on absolute greenhouse gas emissions, as well as emission intensities, which are the emissions per unit of product. And there's also a poster for this study, so if you want to learn more about it, you can have a look at the share fair later on. And then secondly, we're looking at the medium-term impact of the pandemic on greenhouse gas emissions from livestock and manure in Uganda, Kenya, and Ethiopia. We have a project going on which is called Program for Climate Smart Livestock, and one of the things that we're working on are emissions from animals and manure directly. And we work with animal activity data and surveys. And this project started in the end of 2018, and it is still continuing. So we have been lucky to send some people back to the field to collect more data. And COVID-19, of course, was not planned, but it is a natural experiment. So we will certainly also see an effect on the greenhouse gas emissions here. And with this, I'm coming to the end of my presentation. Some closing remarks. We know that COVID-19 will impact on the relationship of livestock with climate and natural resources, but we still know very little about what these impacts will look like. And we have some studies underway giving us information on impacts on greenhouse gas emissions, but there are certainly more areas that need more research. And I might be preaching to the choir here, but this is a little cartoon to put things a little bit into perspective. Of course, it is very critical that we address COVID-19 to alleviate the immediate threat to people and also cope with the mid and long-term effects. But of course, we cannot forget about the threat of climate change. And I like to quote Markert and Rosenblum here, who say that unlike the pandemic, climate change threatens the very basis for continued human prosperity and requires an equal, if not greater, societal mobilization. And Of course, it's our duty to find ways how to make livestock more sustainable and how to really include the environment in the One Health approach. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sonia, for this very detailed presentation on the impact of livestock to climate change, the effect of climate change on livestock, the relationship with land degradation and nutrient recycling. And as you clearly put it, as while we know the effects of climate change on livestock before the pandemic, it is too early to say what will be the effects post-COVID-19, and this require that as a group, as a multi-stakeholder partners, we start thinking of how do we assess these various effects post-COVID-19, because this will be crucial to formulate necessary policies and actions that would mitigate this effect. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of our presentations. Unfortunately, we will not have time for question and answers. Please, but you have sent questions on the chat. Mary is assisting in collecting the questions. These will be given to the presenters and the answers will be shared with you during this meeting. So please, you can continue to send your questions, and these questions will be shared with the presenters and the answers will be sent back to you. So with this, I would like you to join me in thanking all our 5 presenters for this magnificent work. And I want to end here and hand over the floor to Cynthia. Cynthia?
Hi. It's to me to say hi. Thank you. Can you hear me? Please confirm.
Yes, we can hear you, Tesai.
Okay, thank you so much, Simplis. Let me take this opportunity to thank all the presenters for their very interesting presentation. It's actually framed down the group discussion we'll have now. So shortly, we'll be in different working groups to discuss the impact of the pandemic on the livestock sector in Africa. This is the moment for us to reflect and share our experience and what we feel around this issue. So we'll do this group by specific 4 global GASL domains, which is about food and nutrition security, livelihoods and income growth, animal and welfare, climate and natural resource use. Under each specific domain, we'll have 3 different questions to address, which are which positive or negative impacts of the pandemic are most significant for the livestock sector in Africa? How are we observing or measuring this impact? What are the 3 hidden or overlooked opportunities the pandemic offered to the livestock sector? So these are the discussion questions. Next slide, please. In terms of the group configuration, we assigned you based on your selection during your response in registration. You all indicated to which specific domain you want to discuss. So in each breakout room, there will be a facilitator or rapporteur who will guide you through the different discussion and also capture your key points for later use. So we want you to fully engage and share your thoughts freely. Those facilitators will lead you through the different sessions. Maybe you might be asked to shortly introduce yourself and also to get engaged in the discussion. At this point, what we would like you to really get engaged and share your experience and thought with your groups, please. So we'll have 20 minutes for this. After 20 minutes, we'll come back in a plenary and share our reflections in those different group discussions. This is what we are going to do for now. Thank you so much. Let me ask Michael if he's ready to move us to the different breakout sessions. Michael, are we ready?
Yeah, thank you, Sahai. We're gonna move you in. For those who did not sign up for a group, I've just put you into a group, so please stay in that group and that will be all right. So I'm going to shoot you into the rooms and we'll be there for about 20 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, and
Cynthia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, it looks like we got everyone, and that was a real pain, you know, a chore to do that, but it was good that I had the 40 minutes to get that done.
Are all this in the groups or they're?
Yeah, they're all in groups now, and the other people, the only people we have are Vincent, Anne, Edwin, and Daniel, who are, you know, more kind of support IT and web support. And
Mohammed? Dennis Korir?
What's that?
I can see Mohammed still here.
Oh, did Mohammed come in now?
There's Mohammed, there's Dennis Korir, there's Josh Odiambo, Halima, and Daniel. No, Daniel.
Some people.
If you look at the participants, a few haven't moved. You there, Michael?
So Sahai can't get in for some reason, but I don't see her. Yeah, I only have 5 that are unassigned. There's some others. Yeah. So Dennis and Josh and Halima, it seems like we cannot get you into the groups. So please just bear with us. Sahai should be in her group because we have her in her group, both ones. Yeah, and Sahai is assigned. Elizabeth. Okay, Elizabeth, I'll assign you now. Okay, Dennis I see now too, I'll assign him. Okay, good, so we've gotten most everyone back in there, I think.
Halima, not yet.
Yeah, Halima, I can't get on somehow, and Dennis should be going back in.
Yeah, he keeps going and coming. Oh, he's gone now.
Yeah.
Hi, Michael, this is Daniel. I'm back, I think.
It's all right, you can just stay here, Daniel. It's good that you're around, but
Yeah, my internet was down. I think it's back now, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. With 20 minutes, okay.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that's pretty good to get most Mohammed keeps on coming in and out. Sorry, Mohammed, we can't get you in. I'll wait to see if oh, here we go. I'll sign Mohammed now. Yeah. I checked Sahai's in her room. Let's see if people are starting to write.
I can see them also. I'm on Google. Yeah.
Let's see, are people starting to write in their Google Docs?
Yeah, Judy is it right? Isabel,
Good,
yeah.
good.
It started. Good. Did Tazira, is she on?
Yeah, she was on. She should be. And she was assigned. Why? Did you get something from her?
No, I'm just wondering, because she hasn't attended any of our meetings. I'm just wondering, do you know if she joined the call?
She joined the call.
Okay, good.
Yeah, she's here. And I sent her a separate email to follow up to ensure that she was coming, and she did.
Okay.
So we got everyone in there. Now I think I put in the 20 minutes, so everybody should, I'm gonna go into a room and see. I'm gonna go to Tim.
You go to a room. Are you the only one who came? She's fine.
Yeah, yeah. I can send you to one if you wanna go.
Yeah, throw me in one.
Where do you wanna go?
Any, it doesn't matter.
What's your, go to Judy's. I'm gonna put you with
It's like
okay?
nutrition.
Okay, I'll give you with Bimlik because there's only 3 people there.
Okay.
Hello? Sorry. Oops.
Hi, everybody. Everyone should be slowly coming back now. We've closed the breakout rooms.
Michael, that worked so well.
Did it?
Yeah.
Got it. It took me a long time to get everyone into the groups, though.
It was worth it.
Okay, good, good, good. Yeah, tomorrow I had 50 minutes, so you know it was easy. Oh, I like your background with the sheep. Very, very appropriate. Hi, everybody. We'll be, I think all the groups now should be closing in about 5 seconds, so we'll get everybody back. There we go. Here, everyone's popping back in.
Hey, Michael.
Hi, Mabe. Sahai, are you back?
Yes, we're back.
My group is back as well, and apologies
me
for
know.
the last speaker who was cut short. Yes.
Okay, great.
Let me know to start maybe when you have the full participants.
Yeah, it looks like I'm going to unmute Peter too, so you have him
Yes,
online. Yeah. And I mean, all the groups should be done.
I
So
think ours is automatically finished. I mean, by now everyone has to be.
I would start now, Sahai. We have about 100 people back, maybe people left.
Okay.
So please go on, Sahai.
Okay. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your group discussions. So it's time also to quickly get your reflection. So as we have been introducing a lot the chat function, this is time for us to use it. We have 2 questions for you. Let me go to the first one and then you give me your response. So the instruction here is, I read you the question. You just give your instant response in your chat box, but you don't press it until I come and say go. So please, the question is already projected on the screen, as you can see. What is the most interesting or key message about the pandemic and livestock in Africa that you take from this session, from the discussion you had? This is a question. Please do your instant response with 30 seconds and I will tell you go and you press enter. So we see your response in the chat box. Are we ready? One, 2, 3, go. Enter your message, please. Oh, it's coming like a storm. Good.
You want me to help you? So what I'm seeing, Sahai,
yes,
points. The positives and the negatives, the mix of opportunities. So people have been focusing on the challenges, but there's also some big positives in here. We're seeing One Health approach coming up. One Health, that's popping up in many times, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
As a key message. I assume that's a positive and not a negative, the new opportunities. Organization we're seeing, the gender elements are coming up. We don't know the details of that, loss of revenue, the unity of purpose. So there's quite a mix. What we're seeing here is quite a lot of positives. Digitalization again, supply of livestock. I don't know whether that means more supply of less supply. The resilience, business opportunities, animal feed security, a very broad range of things here, but there's a mix of negatives and positives, but a lot of positives. A lot of positives. So maybe that's a good word to finish this.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Can we move to the next slide, please? And then we'll handle the second one. Thank you so much, Peter. Stay with me for the second one as well. Let's move. This is the second question. We follow the same format. So what critical issue did you note here about the pandemic and livestock in Africa? I give a 30 seconds here again. And then when I say go, you press enter. Hold it now. One, 2, 3, go.
We didn't hear about politics. We didn't hear about market closures. We didn't hear enough about economic impact, climate change, unpreparedness, gender disaggregation. We didn't hear enough about gender, Mary. Thank you. Yeah. Loss of jobs, the pastoralism dimensions. Okay. Politics. We didn't hear much about politics, welfare, gender, politics, transparency. So again, a very broad range of things we did not hear enough about or even about at all. Yeah. Food safety, didn't hear about that. There's a lot of points. Some of the points are high. I think there's more coming still.
Okay, so let's stop it here then, Michael. Peter?
I think so, that's good.
Thank you so much, Peter, and all the participants. Still, you can continue chatting about your response, but now let me hand over to my colleague, Mireille, to take us through the next session. Mireille is the communication manager at the livestock and program in ILRI. So Mireille, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Sahai. Hi, everyone. You would have seen me on the chat, and my dogs are making a lot of noise. Just a second. Okay, thanks. So we just wanted to introduce the virtual share fair. If you had, obviously, as you had registered in to attend this meeting, you would have received an email inviting you to submit your submissions to, on what innovations and solutions you have been producing in your own work to help build back better from the COVID-19 pandemic. So we thank everyone for the submissions. We got 18, which is a mix of posters and videos, and they were all under the theme of either in any of the themes of animal health and animal welfare, climate and resource use, food and nutrition security, livelihoods and economic growth. Michael, did you want to share the screen so they show us what we have so far? We hope that this will inspire you to take a look at what we have so far, which is a great selection from different partners, different people who are doing great work on how, on solutions to basically do better and build back better from COVID-19. I also want to let you know that Livestock Data for Decisions, who is participating in the meetings, they're going to be compiling these solutions into an interactive dashboard of initiatives and tools to aid coordinated responses to COVID-19 in the Livestock Center. They're going to share that with us in the same way that we're going to be sharing information with you, the slides and the Q&As. So look out for those, okay? So this is going to stay up for a while. So we encourage you to submit your initiatives to the Share Fair. We'd love to see your work featured because this is really part of this of us working together to compile solutions, because I don't think any one country can do this alone. And as Dr. Dopp had said earlier, that there are no borders. COVID-19 knows no borders, so we have to do this together. So please do visit the virtual share fair. I'm going to share the link right now in the chat.
Marie, just to add on, so do you want to just explain what we have in each, like kind of in the booth for each of the posters?
Sure. So as you see this, with this one example that we have from Kuku Nyumbani, we have an example of the work that they're doing and the kind of the extension and network that they've produced to try to support suppliers and the supply chain. So you'll have the poster there, you have a description of what the poster is about, you have any useful links that relate to the poster. And there was a comment section. So if you want to ask questions, reach out to the authors. This is where you have a chance to actually do that. Okay, so I think that's it. I don't want to keep anyone any longer. Everyone's been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. We have come to the end of our first session. Thank you to all the people who contributed to the different activities. Then we had the introductions, We also had the framing pandemic presentations around the 4 domains. We further reflected on all this in the groups, and Mirel has invited and reminded us that we now have a share fair. It's time to take a break, but during that break, please visit this wonderful work that is being presented in the share fair. And let's all be ready again to meet at 5:30 p.m. East Africa time for the beginning of the next session. So please stay tuned in, visit the share fair, take a short coffee, tea break, and let's meet again. Thank you again, everyone. Over.
Hi, everybody. Please remember that this session has another Zoom link, so please please use that one. We will also try to share it with everybody who is registered and we have their email, so we'll send you a quick email about that shortly as well. Thank you very much. Vincent, yeah, you can turn back on the music. We still have a couple of people. Hi, everybody. We're going to turn off I think we're going to turn this off now so you can take an hour break. And again, there's another link for this session. Please check your calendar and we'll send it out to you shortly.